Alright, pilots. This is Nix here for another video. We're back in the FrogFoot, the SU-25t model FrogFoot. This is going to be the last video on the beginner's guide for the FrogFoot. It is just going through the basics to get new pilots into the FrogFoot, get them flying it around, getting you to deploy your munitions against enemy combatants and being successful at it. This doesn't go deep into all the advanced material with the jet. It's just a very surface level, just to get you started. Once you're having fun and once you're in the seat, getting comfortable with it and learning more as you go, you'll get into the more advanced stuff later on. So today, with this lesson, we're going to get into what some people would say is the most difficult part of the FrogFoot, and that's using the SCVAL sensor. So that would be the little sensor right here on the front. There's a TV screen right back here, and it is connected to our TV right here. And we're going to use that basically as a targeting pod. It's a little bit more primitive than what a lot of more modern jets have, but it is still highly effective. And we can use this SCVAL sensor and the little TV here to lock up targets from a distance with a little bit more accuracy and detail and more target acquisition. We'll know exactly what we're shooting at. And this is also how we deploy the laser targeter through the SCVAL sensor. And that's how we will deploy our laser munitions. So let's get started with that. First thing first, we're going to start off like we do with all the other videos, is with the key bindings that we're going to utilize with this. We've already done our key bindings in the earlier videos for your flaps and all that good stuff. So we're just going to come in here, and we'll have to go back in. There'll be our mode switches: navigation, longitude missile, air to ground, gun sight. You want to make sure those are bound because you're going to have to go to air to ground mode. You got your target lock and unlock. You'll want to have those bound. You should already have them bind from your other videos. Now here's going to be a new one. Is going to be this one right here, and it's target size and gun pod elevation increase and decrease. Mainly, we're not going to use it for the gun pod elevation. That's if you're going to put gun pods on under the pylon, so you have more guns to fire. We're not going to go through those in the beginner guides. That'll be a more advanced lesson later on. But we are going to need this for the target size. So you want that bound to a button, a switch. I have mine on a two-way hat that just goes forward and back. And that'll be to decrease and increase the reticle size on the SCVAL sensor, and we'll see that as soon as we're in the air. Then, of course, you will need launch permission override. You'll also want your trigger for weapons release. And then you'll want laser on off. So launch permission override and laser on off. Now in the Russian FrogFoot, you cannot launch a munition until you have launch authority to do so. But in some circumstances, you're going to want to bypass that and ACM fire a weapon. And the launch permission override is the switch you'll want for that. Like if you don't think you have a lock, but you need to drop it anyway, whatever the munition is, you'll want to hit your launch permission override. Just make sure to shut it back off so that you don't always think you have permission to fire whatever you're trying to fire. And again, the laser on-off is very important for the SCVAL sensor. And you're also going to want to bind something for your TDC slew. So mine is under access commands because on my HOTES, I have an actual button right here. And that is the IT23 target display. So I've got left, right, up, and down as an axis. But if you do not have a HOTES and you're using a keyboard to use your sensor, then you're going to want to come here under sensors, that's also where you'll fire your laser on and off, your target lock, unlock, so on and so forth, your target size. That's all going to be under sensor here. You're going to want to designate keybind something for up, down, left and right, and center. And you can see when I used my keyboard, I used to have it on my numpad. And that's so you can actually slew the sensor around up, down, left, and right, and then hit one button to center it back up. And that'll move your TV screen around, so that'll be very important. You also want to bind something for your zoom in and zoom out. Now, you don't have a ton of zoom on that TV, but it can zoom in once and then zoom back out. So you do get some zoom, but it won't be as much as, like, say, a Lightning 2 pod on a modern A10 or a Viper or something of that nature. But it does have a little bit of zoom for you. Alright, so that's going to be basically all we're going to need to deploy laser-guided weapons with the FrogFoot. Most of the new keybinds are just what controls the sensor, zooming it in, changing the reticle size, turning your laser on and off, and of course, it's a Russian vehicle, so it deploys all weaponry with the same trigger that it uses with everything else. Alright, so now we're going to zoom forward, and pilots, I will see you in the sky, and we're going to start learning to turn the sensor on, how to lock stuff up with it, and how to deploy those weapons. And this is where the fun really begins with the FrogFoot. Besides doing SEAD and dropping bombs and shooting rockets, there is nothing better than finding some nice juicy targets and having a set of APU launchers. So let's get the loadout done now really quick. So we just went through our keybinds. We're ready. We've got our HOTES set up, or our keyboard and mouse all set up. We're ready to learn what these buttons do. But first we need the munitions that we're going to launch. So let's go to loadout, which would be a different button than that. Alright, so as always, I always take my MPS 410 ECM pods on the wingtips. Mainly because they do help. They do give you a little bit of help when something's trying to lock you up or find you with their radars. It does help having those ECMs on. And the air-to-air missile that you can put on the outer pylon is an aphid, an R60 aphid, which is basically garbage. So I'd rather have the little bit of protection than a missile that almost never hits anything. So now in the middle, if we're going and using our Shkval sensor and laser designating targets, if it's nighttime, you'll want to take the Mercury pod. Now the Mercury pod, you set up a different hotkey for it. Instead of the hotkey for the Shkval sensor, there's another one that says Night Vision FLIR, and that'll turn the Shkval on through the Mercury pod, and it's basically a kind of a primitive FLIR. So if you've got to target stuff at night, you'll want to use the Merc pod. If it's not nighttime, though, you're not going to need it. It's not a lightweight piece of equipment, so if it's in the day, don't take it. You don't need it. So first, on our innermost pylons, where we're going to put the heaviest munition, first we're going to take a semi-active laser. So this is the KH-29, the KEDGE-29. This is a very large munition, 657 kilogram warhead. And this is a laser-guided munition, so we're going to take 2 of those. Now the bread and butter for the FrogFoot doing air-to-ground targeting of armor is going to be the APU launchers. Now each launcher has 8 shots. These are tandem heat frag ATGM missiles. These can pop armor, large armor. Sometimes you're not going to get a single shot kill on something like a T-90 or a heavily armored Abrams, but you can get a single shot kill on them, and 2 shots will almost definitely kill any armor out there. But you can only fire 1 at a time. But these are extremely useful missiles, and if you're going air-to-ground hunting, you're going to take 2 APU launchers because you get 16 shots just on 2 pylons, so you're not wasting any space. On the next pylons, let's take some of the smaller S-25Ls. Now these are kind of like the S-25 rockets, but these have a little bit bigger of a munition, so it's a 320 kilogram warhead. And these are laser-guided S-25 rockets. So it is still an S-25 rocket, but it's got a laser kit on it. And on the outside, we'll just put a couple of archers so we have some air-to-air defense. All right, let's load that up.
Request rearming.
And just because I accidentally forgot this keybind while we were doing the key bindings, See, here's the keybind for the night vision. This would be what you would want to bind if you have the Mercury pod equipped. But right here where it says electro-optical sensor, this is a SCVAL sensor right here. So you want to make sure that's bound, because that's how you turn your pod on. And that's the last keybind. I'm sorry I forgot that in the when I was going through the keybinds, but that is the SCVAL sensor. So you want to make sure that you have that bound as well, or else you're not going to know how to turn on the pod. And that would be very frustrating when you're in the air. And here we go. So there is the big kedge. That is the big 600 kilogram warhead kedge, very large. Those are the APU launchers. They're also the actual launch. The actual munition is called a Vickers. The APU is just the rack. There's the smaller 320, which is the S-25 laser kitted rocket. Alright, so here we go. We're going to get in the air. We're going to fire these big chonkers on target. We're going to fire some of these Vickers and show you how that works. And then we're going to shoot these medium-sized one. And then we're going to call it a day. And everyone can jump in their FrogFoots and practice all these little beginner lessons that we've learned. And trust me, as soon as you start blowing up some targets with your laser munitions or dropping some bombs on some stuff, shooting some rockets at some enemy trucks or enemy positions and getting some hits and flying away, and even better, landing successfully after you've done that, you're going to feel 1,000 times better. It's not going to seem so rough trying to get into this anymore, and you're going to start flying more, and everything is going to start slowly getting easier, and you're just going to love it. And I can't wait for everyone to get to that stage. So, I'll see you in the skies, and let's get it done. Okay, pilots, here we are. We're up in the air. We're loaded up. We're ready to go. First thing we're going to do always in the FrogFoot before we get into an enemy AO and start aggressing targets, we're going to make sure we turn on our DIRCM, which is our built-in infrared ECM. That way we have a little bit of protection from heaters and so on. And let's go ahead and turn on our ECM wingtip pods. So they're not going to just save us automatically. It's not a get out of jail free card, but it certainly does help. So we never want to forget to turn those on. So, first thing we're going to do, we are going to hit our air to ground mode button. And there we go. Now we've got the ground. This all looks familiar. We've done it before. We can see that we have the outer pylon selected so far, which is going to be our smaller S-25 laser guided rockets. That's what the 25L stands for. Select again. We've got the 9M127. That's the APU launchers with the Vickers missiles. And then the last one is going to be our 29Ls, which is our very large laser guided air to ground missiles. Now if you notice, the TV is not on, our weapons are on, but we don't know what to do with them yet. So we remember the electro-optical sensor keybind we made, we're going to go ahead and flip that on. And now you can see our TV screen has come to life. Now you notice right away that the screen is not the best. It is an old, slightly primitive TV screen. So it's looking right up in the sky. You can see the pipper on the screen is where that thing's looking, and that's why you can't really see a whole lot there, because it's looking up in the sky. Now you can see that cloud. You can see there is a little bit of resolution on that TV. So you've got your keybinds for moving your designator around, so we'll utilize those to start moving the designator around. Now you can see the ground in front of us. You're looking through the TV and seeing right where the pipper is looking. It's very self-explanatory, piece of cake. Now, if you look at your TV here, you'll have that target size that we did. It was the gun pod elevation and target size, up and down. So that'll be this little square right here in the middle. And that's like your target designator. If you're trying to lock onto a target, especially one that's moving, what you'll want to do is change the size of that to better fit the item you're trying to shoot into that box, and that will help the actual SCVAL sensor lock onto that target. It'll better know what you're actually trying to lock up. So we're going to come back around here, and we are going to look for some trucks that we have on the road. And we're not going to fire any missiles yet. We are just going to look at them through the target designator, through the Skval sensor, and see if we can lock them up. I believe there's some trucks driving around up here. And once we do have one lock up, we will go through the firing. So we are going to go ahead and select our POO launcher, our Vickers. And you see the symbology on the HUD. It says TV up there, which you don't really need to know that. Of course, it's the TV's on. You already know that because it's on right in front of you and you're looking at it. All right, let's look at our map here, and we can see that we are down here. There's our trucks going around the road. Oh, there they are. So let's get nose on, and let's see if we can find them with our TV. And remember, there's also the zoom in and out. We bound that, and I'll show you the zoom here. That's your standard, and that's zoomed in. So you've got a decent amount of zoom. It's not a ton, but you have a little bit. Alright, let's slow down here a little bit. We don't want to be zooming around. Whoops. And I got way off target there, didn't I? Alright. Alright, should be basically due north. We'll go ahead and get lined up roughly due north. And let's see if we find any trucks here driving down the road. Should be there in front of us. Let's go ahead and bring our screen down so we've got a bit better visual. And we are looking for some trucks. Now, is that them there? There they are. Okay, so there's our trucks. Let's zoom in. Let's change the size of this so it's a little bit closer. Now, you're wondering, well, it's not doing anything. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to lock onto the ground now. It's called ground stabilizing. So we're not going to look at the truck. We're just going to go underneath it. We're going to hit target lock. And now the sensor is designated onto the ground. So now it's not moving anymore. And you can see we can fly to that point now, and there it is in front of us. We have this big ring, which is the symbology for the POO launcher. So now that it's stabilized, now we can put the box over the truck, and there you go. It snapped right to it and locked it on. I'm not going to fire yet. I'm just going to show you. Now we're flying to it. You can see that the pipper is stuck on that truck, and it is tracking it. Now to fire the POO, you want to get the big circle into the pipper and get launch authority and turn the laser on. Authorized. So we're going to hit back to turn the laser on. Now if we wanted to fire, we could fire right now. We're not going to do that yet though. We're going to turn the laser off, we're going to turn off, we're going to fly off, and we're going to reset our TV. And a quick way to reset it, if you don't have a button to recenter the TV, you can just shut it off and back on, and it'll put it right back to where it was, unstabilized. So when it's not stabilized, it just follows your jet. We can stick it over here, but it still just follows where the jet's looking. So once you look at somewhere on the ground, like if you think there's an enemy there, we can just lock it right there, and then that'll stabilize it on the ground, and we can then move it around without the jet moving it around. Alright, so let's come back around, and this time we're going to go ahead and lock up one of those moving trucks. So we'll stabilize the sight on the ground near the trucks, and then we will move the sensor, the pipper, and the Skval sensor over one of the trucks and get it to snap onto it, which means it's locked. If you have trouble locking it, by the way, if you have a little bit of trouble locking the Skval, turning the laser on before you have it locked can sometimes help it snap to target a little bit better if you're having trouble. And that's a contrast issue. The Skval sensor, it's locking onto the image, so if you turn the laser on, that helps it designate the image even better and pre-range it. So if you do have a lot of trouble getting the sensor to snap into the target, mess with the size of the box using that target designator like I'm doing right now, the size, and turn the laser on, and that should give you a lot better chance to get it to snap in there. Alright, so those trucks are moving away from us. Let's go ahead and roll back into where they were. Make sure we're zoomed out. If you're zoomed in, the sensor moves a lot slower. So if you're trying to find your targets for the first time, you want to make sure you're zoomed out. And I do have labels on at the moment for this video, just so it's a little bit easier to find them, like right there. Alright, so we're going to ease off on the throttle. We're going to get the sensor down there onto the ground. Let's zoom. Whoop. Alright, let's stabilize it on the ground there. There they are. Let's turn the laser on. Let's zoom in. Let's make the box a little bit smaller. Let's see if we can... Oh, we got them. We got them locked on. Laser is on. Pipper is inside the big circle, so we're going to get launch authority now. We're going to hold down the trigger and rifle. And we can just watch that fly right on in there. Now you have to hold the laser on the target the entire time. Now that it hit, we can unlock, we can move the sensor, we can relock it, we can turn the laser off and back on, and that resets.
Launch
and we can fire another one. And boom. So one pass, we got 2 zills. Now, what I just showed you, I'm going to go through what I did and slow it down while I'm just talking to you while we're coming back around. So we did the first one, we stabilized to the ground, we snapped it onto one of the target trucks, then we turned the laser on, and then we got the big circle, the targeting Vickers circle, into the Pipper reticle, and that gave us launch authority to fire, and we fired the missile off by holding down the trigger. Now you have to not do anything else and just fly towards the target to keep the Cheval sensor and the laser pointing directly on that truck. Those Vickers ride the laser to the target. So you can't click the laser off, you can't bank left really hard and break your lock. You just have to hold it on there like a Fox 1 missile. But once it hits, you'll notice the laser was still counting down. So the way you can get around that is you just unlock the sensor, or you can just start moving it and snap it onto another target. Then you can cycle the laser, and that will reset. So you turn the laser off and then back on while you have a new target locked, and it will take away the timer and allow you to get launch authority for another shot. And once you get good at that, you can get 3 to 4 Vickers missiles off on 3 to 4 different targets on a single pass. And the Vickers do have a decent amount of range. I'm shooting them pretty close here, but I'm just flying a tight little pattern to show you how to use these missiles. But on a good run-in, you can get a lot of missiles off in a single run using that technique. Ground stabilize, find your target, snap to it, turn the laser on, get launch authority, get the target reticle into the Pipper, fire, wait for it to explode, snap it to another target, cycle the laser, and go again. And we're going to do that one more time before we switch weaponry. We're going to go fire one of these big chonkers at a larger target. And the Vickers are the only missile that has the reticles that you see here, where we were doing the, it brings up the big targeting reticle, the Vickers, that's the Vickers reticle. With the bigger missiles, you just have the Pipper, and you just get launch authority when you're within range to fire. Alright, let's come back around on our trucks. They should be off the road and not moving anymore because they're dispersing because they're under fire. So this will be a lot easier to get a shot off now because they're just kind of sitting there, hoping they don't get shot at. So there's the trucks, there's the road. Let's go ahead and get the Pipper close and ground stabilize. Let's zoom in. There's one right there, locked onto target, turn the laser on, get the big reticle into the Pipper,
launch authorized,
and fire. Now we're going to ease off the throttle to slow down a little bit more. As soon as this missile hits, boom, now we're going to move the Pipper, got it, cycle the laser, and get it lined up,
launch
fire
authorized.
again. Boom, shack 2 targets, and we're off left and accelerating. It's not that hard, and you just got to get used to it. My best suggestion is practice, get you some targets set up on a map, or there's even a couple of training missions in the FrogFoot that comes with everybody's version of DCS for free that has some training missions that have the Apu launchers and the Vickers missiles, and I just suggest practicing, and don't try to do it fast. Take your time, lock on one target at a time, and just get good at using all of your bindings to stabilize your reticle, snap it to a target, activate your laser, and then line everything up and get your shot off. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get, and the faster you'll get. As I've said 1,000 times, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Do not get anxious. Don't try to stress yourself and move really quick. When you start doing that, you're going to mess up and you're going to frustrate yourself. So just keep doing it one at a time. Get better. Just keep going. Keep going. Don't stop. You will get better fairly quickly, especially when you see some success. It's just like anything else, like working out. Nobody wants to work out to lose weight or to better their health or anything, and they have a lot of trouble doing it, but as soon as they start seeing some results, it's a lot easier to motivate yourself after that. Alright, let's choose our smaller S-25 rockets on the outer pylons here, and let's go find a bigger target here. We're already just about lined up. We're going to fly right over here to where this enemy base is. The same place where we were dropping bombs in our other video. And let's see, I don't see it yet, but I might be off to the left a little too. Oh, is that it? Yeah, I think that might be it. Let's get the pipper on there. And now let's look at our TV screen. Boy, that glares in there, isn't there? Oh, there it is right there. So let's ground stabilize right there. So that's another way you can use the squall sensor to find your targets. So there's the pipper, so now we're lined up, we know where we are. That sun's a little rough, isn't it? Let's zoom in a little bit here. There's one of those targets. Oh, there we go, it snapped on. So now we're set. Let's go ahead and turn the laser on. And now you can see our carrot is moving down to our max range and min range. So as soon as that carrot gets down in between those two and the laser is on, we will have launch authority. We do not have to worry about lining up another reticle. The range changes by the elevation of the jet. So just keep flying towards your target.
Launch authorized.
And hold down the trigger, fire. And let's give it the other one too. And fire.
Launch authorized.
And there we go, it's riding the laser in. Boom and boom. And just like, cycle the laser off, just like the Vickers, when you fire a laser guided munition like that, you can't turn the laser off, you have to maintain the target. All these laser munitions are basic Fox 1s. Just like I went through what a Fox 1 is in the air-to-air segment. You have to maintain the lock until the munition hits its target or explodes. Then you can cycle the laser, you can pull away. And the designation when you're firing an air-to-ground missile that is designated as an air-to-ground missile, an AGM or an ATGM, if you're firing it at a ground target, the designation is rifle. So if you're firing a semi-active radar missile on a jet, that's a Fox 1. If you're firing an IR missile on a jet, that's a Fox 2. An active radar missile like an AMRAAM is a Fox 3. And firing AGMs at ground targets from a jet is called rifle. So that's the designation that you would say over your radio so that everyone knows what you're doing. That's the code for firing an AGM at an enemy combatant on the ground. Alright, so this time we're going to try to get our sensor onto that command center. Or actually, let's hit the factory. That's a nice big target. And these two missiles are just huge warheads. I think it was 672 or 679 kilogram warhead. So they pack a punch, so we're going to be able to take out that factory with these. So we're just going to come around, we're going to get our pipper onto the ground, we're going to ground stabilize it, except this time I'm going to probably just put the pipper on the factory, because it's the factory so big we can see it. And then we'll verify the target on the sensor. The sun is going to be right in our screen, so that's not the best, but it'll be okay. I can see the factory from here. Piece of cake. So let's just use the pipper this time. So we're just going to move the pepper around, and we're going to hit the lock button when it's close. So there, it was close. It's not on it. Let's go ahead and blow up this. It's probably not going to give us a full lock on that factory because it's huge. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to point it at the factory. There we go. And then we're going to turn our laser on. And whatever that laser's pointing on, that missile's going to hit. So there we go. We're pointing at the factory. We've got range. Rifle ×2. And we don't have a lock necessarily, but the laser is going to stick on the target. So the missiles are going to run into that target. And there you go. That's one dead factory. So that's showing you that you don't necessarily have to have an actual snap to target lock. Whatever your laser is pointed on and hitting is the designated target, and whatever missile, whatever laser guided munition you fire is going to ride that laser to that target. So you always want to snap to a target if you can, but it's not completely necessary unless it's a moving target. If it's a moving target, you're going to have to wait until you've got a good snap on to target, or else, you know, for obvious reasons, your missile's not going to hit that moving target. And that is basically laser guided munitions in the FrogFoot. And that gives you kind of an A to Z of using the FrogFoot. We learned how to drop bombs with CCIP, CCRP, clusters, regular bombs. We fired rockets. We fired air-to-air missiles. We went through SEAD and fired our HARMs, enemy radars, which is one of the most important things that FrogFoots do, is taking out enemy radars and enemy SAM sites. And now we've learned how to use the Skval sensor and laser-guided munitions. There is some other weaponry on the FrogFoot that you can get into, but this is what all you need to learn to just get in the FrogFoot and start making a difference on a battlefield. You can kill ground targets, you can kill air targets, you can kill radars, and that's all you need to do. So I suggest taking all these lessons, putting them to heart and putting them to practice, and getting better as you go, and then you can start getting into the deeper knowledge as you get better and more comfortable. Don't try to learn everything at once. Some weapons, you can always learn every single thing a jet can do, but a lot of weapons, once you know all the weapons, there's going to be a lot of weapons you probably almost never ever use. I recommend everyone learning those weapons, but it's not necessary for a lot of them. You know, I don't do certain things in certain jets, even though I could, because I either have a different jet that does it better, or it's just not that great of an idea in the first place, and I'd rather spend my time taking out that enemy SAM or taking out that enemy AAA gun position or something. So again, everybody, thank you for using these videos. I hope they help you become a little bit better and a little bit more comfortable with getting in that FrogFoot and learning it. That is the whole point of these videos. I'm not trying to waterboard anybody with too much information at once. That seems to be something that does happen quite a bit with DCS. So the next jet we're going to do, I'm not quite sure yet, but as soon as I know it, the first video for it, the beginner's guide for it, will be out. It'll probably be just loadout and flight model, maybe taxis, takeoffs, and landings. And then we'll start getting into the weapon systems of that. It'll be a Flaming Cliffs 3 module. I'm going to get through those first before I get into more advanced jets, but even when I hit the advanced jets, my first guides are going to be beginner guides even for those. So again, pilots, I hope to see you in the skies, and you all have a great, great day.
Launch authorized. 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 Launch authorized.